The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brian Ankney with Auto Success Magazine and Auto Success Service. I appreciate you all taking the time to join us today. We've got a great presentation for you. You're going to learn a lot about, why dealerships struggle with CRM and how the CRM fails you and how you fail it. Today, our guest, this is his first time on an Auto Success webinar, is Keith Shetterly. He is the VP of Sales and Marketing at Drive360 CRM. Also, we have Rick Mackley. He's going to be he won't be presenting, but he will be available for questions at the end. Please take a look at the little panel that you have on the right side of your screen. That's the GoToWebinar panel. If you look near the bottom, it says questions, and there's a little plus sign next to that questions. If you hit that plus sign, you can enter questions in there. If you have a question during the presentation, Keith actually would like you to type them in, and I'll go ahead and ask them to him. If you would like, please join Auto Success Webinars. It's a group on Facebook, and it gives you the opportunity to interact with our speakers, during or after the presentation. So, say you get 5 or 6 great ideas from Keith today, and you go to implement them, and a week down the line, you want to ask him a follow-up question. Please feel free to through that forum, or you can see their contact information on the screen. Keith, if you'd like, take it away, my friend.
All right, folks, thanks a lot. Appreciate your attendance today. Again, he mentioned the contact information. You can see my email and my phone. I don't mind a phone call directly to my cell phone or text. I answer questions on what I'm going to be talking about, whether we ever do business or not. My whole idea here is to give you value that you can do something with at your dealership no matter what you're doing today, and that's been my deal since I've been in the business. So if you've got a dealership today, you have a problem. Sometimes you don't know, sometimes you do. And I forgot something here. We're going to go. It is, okay. So I'm going to talk about me for just a second because I want to make sure I validate for you guys. I was e-commerce director for a large group in Houston for almost 7 years. 3 locations, at one time 16 makes. So, and the internet departments worked for me. The internet marketing was done through me. And I also sold cars. But I have a tech background as well. So that's one of the things that folds into what Rick has here and Drive360. But the part that's interesting to you guys, I think, is that whole retail experience and what I did. Also, for many years, I've watched dozens, if not hundreds, of dealers go through CRM issues, CRM backlog, CRM resistance, all the things that happen that are of value to you today. And I'm sure you've faced some of these things. We were talking earlier whether I take questions during. Certainly don't hesitate to question over the chat service during the process here. Brian will interrupt me if I need to stop and talk about things. But today, as far as how we go through the challenges, I laid it out on 5 and 5. CRM itself, the tool, we bought CRMs for a long time with the idea they were going to build our business, and then a lot of dealerships it became, well, I got the monkey off my back. Some dealerships are, in fact, I have a line item that I own my expenses, and that's what it is. And I'll teach you in a minute how my view is it's not an expense at all and why that is. But the CRMs themselves, there's a broad body of them, and not all of them are good for the particular dealership processes that you have. And it's a painful lesson that dealerships have. So really, I group them underneath about 5 challenges just at the CRMs. And I'm not going to linger too much on this. I'll come back to it at the end. But I just want to brace you with where I am on the CRM side of things. They're too complicated, require too many steps. They don't adapt to what you're doing. That's a common issue. They're platform dependent. They don't show right on a mobile platform. They have a mobile app. They have a mobile app that doesn't have all the features. They've got a mobile app on Android, not on iPhone, not on Android. And your sales team is, what I'm doing here is actually listing the excuses I'm sure that you hear from your sales team about the tools. Even if you have a great tool, you'll hear some of this because they migrate toward resistance, and we'll talk about that in a minute and how to overcome that. So a CRM itself also, when I talked about doesn't support your sales process, you greet a person, you do the meet and greet, you do a little interview, you're doing your 10 steps on the road to the sale that we've done for many years, and some people think it's 5, some people think it's 15, it's 3, it's whatever it is at the dealership that you have, but it's a process you want done by your salespeople, and the CRM doesn't enable that, it gets in the way of it. or it allows the salespeople, again, to position it in the way so they don't have to follow the process of accountability. Stop for a second. I did follow-up calls to appointments that were set to try and find out who actually showed on dealerships across 10 dealerships. I did a survey of that in my career in the last few years, and I can tell you during that survey, found out that the logging rate of people that show hover between 22 and 30%. Nobody really did over, and most people didn't do under 22, although some people did. So think about that for a second. 3 out of 4 people aren't even getting logged. They're getting broomed on your lot. And salespeople use these reasons to not use the CRM, and I'll again show you how to overcome it. Even if you have a terrible CRM, you can take steps before you go after an improved tool. You definitely want to get your process together. Anybody selling you an improved tool will want to help you do that, because that would mean that the improved tool would actually show the value that it's going to be for you and not be blocked by bad processes or processes that aren't followed. It's also not usable for proper prospect communication. I know we like to call them, we call them customers in the car business because they're going to buy if they haven't bought yet. But you hear the word prospect bounced around too, so I want to kind of union those two things. They're really what we're talking about, people that have either bought from you and are thinking about buying again, or people that have not bought from you yet. Even people who have serviced with you. And when I say not proper communications, the CRM can't track it, doesn't want to track it, the salespeople don't want to do it. And so they use their cell phone to text, or which causes, frankly, illegal exposure for you. If you don't know about TCPA, the Telecommunications Protection Act, you need to find out about that, because texting itself and communication with people in those methods is a legal challenge to some dealerships, and it is a situation that you don't want to be in, where you use or have your people misusing or don't even know what they're using. So built-in text to a CRM, for example, can take care of that. Also, the emails and the phone mail, or the phone, need to be done through CRM awareness, at least, if not guidance, so that you know the proper follow-up's being done, and it's being done through the CRM for accountability reasons. You can see that people are actually doing this. That's the nirvana that people wanted from CRM, and they've kind of gotten used to, and I don't know why it keeps doing that. Okay. So I'm going to go to the last part, which is got your check, thank you, CRM company attitude. You face that from some CRMs, and some dealerships are fine to write that check. I'm just saying it exists. I'm just being straight about the situation. You've got some tools out there that just really have lost the relationship with the dealership, or the dealership lost it with the tool, and everybody's writing checks and nobody's getting anything done, but the GM's not on your butt, or the owner's happy, or the OEM thinks you're doing things, and it becomes a checkbox, and checkboxes don't do anything. It may maybe protect you from things, but they don't actively increase sales. And if anybody's in this business not to sell more cars, then they need to understand that they need to find something else to do. That said, going around promising you're going to sell more cars from CRMs neglects the part that happens with processes. And that's really where I'm going to go now. Brian, are there any questions yet?
Nope, not yet. Diane said welcome, Keith, but no questions yet.
Hi, Diane. Thank you for saying that. Well, and thanks for coming. So you at the dealership, the things that you can affect, regardless of the tool that you have, you really have 5 buckets in my mind that challenge your success, that prevent you from being successful. And they're the same thing. In fact, if you took the CRM out of the picture, you'd recognize for a minute these are process problems whether you had a CRM or not. And that's an exciting thing to be able to do, to say, wow, I can actually make changes today. Except we've been wanting to do these changes for a long time. So I'm going to mention that you have to put the right processes with the right CRM to get your success. So the salespeople resist it. We aren't past this point. If we think we're past this point, we're ignoring some situations where the average salesperson in major metro areas is it's headed toward less than 1. It's sitting around a little over 1.2 years in the business now. In some of the rural areas, it's more, but it's still under 2 years. So your average salesperson is a little bit hit and gone, one and done. They work for a few months and they move on. So the training and the issues with the CRM become, first you've got to get the resistance overcome, and that is an attitude. We'll talk about that in a minute, about how to help with that. Management resists it. And if the dealership's on the line, or people watching this later, or anytime you're talking about this, haven't met this problem, you need to go to some more dealerships, because it's all over the place. get tired from trying to get the salespeople to do it. They're not motivated necessarily themselves because they're desking in a different deal than the CRM, or the CRM is just seen as some sort of way to do a little bit of business, but really it's still done with handshakes and brooming on the lot. We just can't do that. So we don't continuously CRM train. I'm going to mention this because people go, oh, we got training from our provider. We get some sort of a webinar once a month or once a quarter, or somebody wanders in off the street and says, hey, can I do training today? The U.S. Army, I'll mention in a second, the U.S. military can't do that. You don't want the military that's guarding the United States of America, I don't care what political stripe you are, you want them to be trained and ready to go. And the Army and Navy and Marines and Air Force all recognize this. They continually training their people. We're a huge, huge, huge footprint of retail in America. Our point of sale terminal, the cash register in the business, sits in finance, but really the cashier really is the salesperson that goes ahead and gets everything ready to go and helps them and brings them over, brings their items over from the rack and then puts them through the cashier part. So we don't treat it that way because we think it's as simple as a cashier. It's not. If what we did was simple, everybody would do it. The idea that anyone can come to a car lot and work is absolutely true. The idea that anyone can come to a car lot and work and be successful is a little less true. The fact that anyone can possibly do it is absolutely true. We all know this already. But CRM is not going to fix a bad employee. You're only going to be able to train the good ones and train better ones and retain them so you get out of the 1.4 ditch, or 1.4 of your people are the average years that you're with the dealership. And again, I mentioned that proper prospect communication, they bypass. They put CRM bypasses in. Yes, boss, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take care of my follow-up, and the next thing you know, inside the CRM, they've done 100 follow-ups in 20 minutes. And that's 100 follow-ups on the phone. And that's a little bit impossible to do if you think about it, but it shows up in the CRM, so it must be true, right? They're bypassing. They're either ignoring it, not doing it. They're doing it on their cell phone, and it's convenient to them. They're communicating with customers outside your control. And one thing you've got to be in the car business is a control freak. If you're not, then you're going to become one in a hurry. So, and I know this, it drove me nuts trying to make my people use the proper phone etiquette, much less use the phone, right? If I don't even know what phone they're on, how can I monitor how they're doing? I can record all day long. I'm recording, average dealership records less than 15% of their calls. Think about that. You pay all that money for those recordings normally, and you don't capture but 15% of your business to even know what happened. And the challenge overall is we become habitual, and now the CRM is an expense. How much does it cost for you to write a check? And you know, my people will probably use it. I hope so. I bought another one. Oh, another check. I'm $100,000 into my retraining of my dealership group, and suddenly I go, wow, I don't even know what I'm buying. And so over time, CRM has gone to the corner and become an expense. The CRM actually, the acronym is so dead and tired in most people's minds that they think, well, if I buy a CRM, I'm buying, you know, milk. How much is it a gallon? How much is it a kilowatt hour for my electricity? There is actually a very big difference between the tools. But the biggest difference in the tools, the most successful CRM will always be the one you use. If you start using a very usable CRM, the successes, that's really where the doubling and tripling happens for you. But you can't treat it as an expense, and if you are, you need to get out of that mindset. So this is on the how to fix it route. Salespeople resist. You got to remove the excuses. The better tool will help you do that, but only if you attack with that tool, that problem. What you really have to do is really, I'm telling you right now, it's not a salesperson problem. A good friend of mine, Jim Ziegler, says it best. It's a management problem. If you put it in the manager's pay plan, yes, I said that, put it in the manager's pay plan. You can try the salespeople's pay plan. That'll be great. Now your tail is really trying to wag the dog. You've got to get a hold of the dog. And you get a hold of managers in America in the car business by going to their pay plan. It's not complicated. It's not complicated. There are reports in the CRM that you can see how many of their salespeople are just even viewing the pages. Follow-up and those kind of things can be followed, but who's logging in? What's the activity log say? Well, Fred, you got 5 salespeople working for you, and they account for less than 5% of the CRM activity. I guess you don't get your bonus this month, but get somebody's attention. And I don't think it would happen more than once. In fact, I know it won't because I've seen this done. It all is a decision. How do you want to get to it? If you want to get after the answer, and I've been with you. I've watched this happen. I'm not some guy preaching to something I've never done. I faced this discussion with a general manager who didn't want to do it. And over time, it became obvious that we needed to do it. We could have had those months back with a time machine, great, but we got all the future with it because we went and made this change. That is the key point I'll make today about how to get the CRM more successful, is work out what reports that you have, that you need to look for activity, just raw activity. Who's logging in and looking at pages? Because they'll log in, but they won't sit there going around to 50 pages. You watch them, you see somebody using 2,000, 3,000 pages of a CRM, and you go, wow, they're a pretty heavy user. Most people are using less than 100. I guess they don't get their bonus either in that management group. And I hope that this makes sense to you, regardless of what CRM you're using. It's got to. It's not just processes, it's accountability. And accountability goes to the bottom line. Selling more cars is great. And sometimes we have up and down months. Market conditions do affect us. But market conditions should not affect, and cannot affect your CRM, except to say this. When the market's down, you need to be using the CRM more. You need to be mining more, going after more referral business. All that needs to happen. How are you going to know that's happening? By telling the salespeople? No. You get the manager behind it. You make it part of their pay plan. It's an old Texas saying. I'm from Houston. If you want to turn the herd, drive the bulls. Get a hold of the manager's heads, and the salespeople will follow, or they will go out the door. And you get a hold of their head through their paycheck. This lack of training really bothers me. I did this. I took this on because I was the CRM Nazi for the group at the main store. I took this on all the time. And it's hard work because people resist it. People don't want to do it. They go, oh, you know, I don't have to. Well, once the managers are on board, the training is a lot easier because it all becomes regular and regulated. You can't have regular without regulated. You got to regulate it by getting the managers and get their pedal to the metal and get that throttle up. And then the training becomes important to them, and it will become important to their salespeople. When I talk about the proper communication, and I talked about that bypass, I bring it up 3 times in this presentation because it's one of the most important things you can stop. Are your salespeople doing their calls and follow-up on an accountable system? Are you able to see in your phone system or through your CRM what's actually happening with your salespeople? And the emails that they're using, are they using some kind of approved templates? Are you living with a bad speller that's making a bad impression? Are you paying no attention to the latest for your salespeople, the processes that are coming out of some of the more advanced topics, and you find out that, wow, our templates are the ones that people pay no attention to? Or guess where they go? They go into the spam filter. You've not done a spam scan. You've got to have some, there are some tools, and if you email me on that email, I will show them to you, I'll send them to you, that you can use for, to take a look at what the spam position is for your emails that you're sending. And also you got to be able to do smart blasts. You can't just let your salespeople write some really bad hokum to your customers that you own. They're your customers, and they send stuff to them and they drive them away. And you can't tell even if they're making their phone calls. These are the things that happen. You can manually do it. Like I said, you can rip your CRM out of the building and you still do business. But you're not going to be doing modern business. You're going to be talking to the modern customer, the modern client. You're not going to be talking to them in a smart way. Then the accountability inside of your CRM will include things like there'll be call reports in there, follow-up reports, internet lead reports. Everybody, stop for a second. I want to talk about internet leads. The internet department is typically the most, if there is a separate one, the most scrutinized department at the dealership. Do you know why? Because it has the most accountability checkpoints. Yeah, there's a lot of money in it, don't get me wrong, it gets a lot of attention from that point of view, but really you can look at everything. I can see emails, and I know my internet managers are typically my smartest employees, so they chase these animals and bring that hide home. But they don't, they understand the system and they understand that. But if I want to take a look at what my floor is doing, I've got a big murky mess. I can't tell. Or if I can tell, I don't trust it. So the internet departments can sometimes be the place where all heat is because they go, oh, you're not selling enough cars out of the internet. Okay, how many are floor selling? How many of those are really internet deals? That really happens. So pay attention to the reporting. So the reporting you should look for, besides the number of leads and that kind of thing, the activity log inside your CRM. Find out where you can find such a thing or something to describe it. How can I tell that my people are even logging in and that they're just generally using it? Then take a look at who's making their phone calls. Take a look who's sending emails. And take a look who's selling. You will find a correlation. Somebody in your dealership today is selling a lot of cars and they're doing a lot of calls and they're doing a lot of emails. But if you're not making them use a CRM, you don't know that. You don't even know how to have your guys. Go see Jerry. He knows how to do it. You don't even know who to do. You're guessing. And everybody remembers that part in Forrest Gump, right? Where he's up on the mast and he's having his moment, his spiritual moment. And he's saying, you know, but right before that he was saying, oh, the fish are over there, oh, the fish are over there, the shrimp. And they were nowhere he looked. After the storm and he accepted the fact that there was some accountability in his life, poof, he found what he needed. That's really a short version of that scene. No accountability, just anger, going wherever he thought, has a moment of revelation, and poof, now he's accountable, and they're out there, and they're going after, and they're being successful. That's what you've got to do too. I mentioned that the training every day. I just go back to that again. If you aren't training your people, and how do you expect them to do it? And think, well, I got to train them on the phone. I got to train them on everything. Look, you first got to get accountability. They've got to know how to log a customer. You got to be confident they're going to do it. You got to be confident they're going to log their calls, or the system's going to automatically log it. And then you got to look at it. The most painful thing I did at a dealership ever was listening to phone calls. It's a big joke, and I'm sure you said it yourself, that you can feel suicidal after listening to recordings. But this is not that part. This is the part of saying, look, Fred, you're very frustrating. You're not doing all your calls. Oh, boss, I did them. I just didn't put them in the CRM. Well, guess what, Fred? You're on probation. If you want to keep working here, you're going to put those calls in your CRM. And oh, by the way, don't do 200 calls in 20 minutes. And we made ourselves clear. And by the way, your manager is now accountable for that, and your manager is going to get paid on the fact whether you do or don't do it. So I don't think you want to make him mad, and I don't think you want to try and josh him and get by. You're going to have to go do the work now, because you're how he gets paid. That is a very powerful discussion. And then you got to follow that with training. Don't go, I didn't know how, boss. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. You took driving school. You drove to work. You can handle the CRM. Yes, you can. Any questions, Brian, so far?
No, not yet.
Okay. Well, can we take them off mute? Just ask for a second and see if anybody's got a call. I'd like to stop, just pause for a minute and take a call, or take somebody speaking if they want to speak up now.
If anybody would like to ask a question, please raise your hand. There's a raise your hand button. Let me see here.
Yeah, forget about that feature. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we didn't have any?
No, not yet.
Okay. So I've gone through these 5 things here, basically. It's going to the 5th one. Is treating CRM like an expense. If you are doing this, then you're at stage 4. You're recoverable. Thankfully, it's not a deadly cancer. If you let it go further, you can stop. But you're at stage 4. You're at a Okay, so sorry, I had a small technical glitch there. Am I back? Can you guys hear me? Frank, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you. Okay, awesome. So treating the CRM like an expense is a stage 4 cancer situation. You've got to stop. If that's where your CRM is and that's what it's become, then you are definitely suffering from 2 problems together. One is the processes. It's a give up moment. And then there's the CRM tool itself, I'm sure, you feel like it's in your way. And really, to be successful, you got to solve the processes and the tool at the same time, because processes themselves will eventually rise a tide that will drown some CRMs, won't be able to keep up. But take a look at what you want to achieve, and you build it out from that processes point. I'm a super processes guy in the sales side. I used to train it. I used to hold it accountable. I was held accountable. I was paid off sales processes and success in selling cars. So just like you guys, I've had that. And the CRM tool to me and the CRM processes need to match. And if they're not, fix that problem, but it's not fixed by stroking a check to people who will take the check. That's just not the way to do business, please, and not the way to be successful in a modern dealership. And I know this from doing it myself, not because I'm just preaching something I learned out of a book. Don't treat it like your electricity bill. It's a sales capture tool. Think about it that way. It's a marketing tool. It's a business accountability tool. You're going to capture sales with it. Would you go to all the expense of, go back to the shrimp boat, would you go be a shrimp boat captain and sit around with a net with holes in it and expect to be successful? No. Well, don't let holes go in your net, and don't let your processes, which is the engine of your sales, just sit at the dock. Please don't do that. And if you're in that situation, reach out. It's an easy discussion to have. Either the processes are, you know what you want to do, and I'll help you figure that out, or you're looking for a CRM, which I'm welcome to take that call, but the idea is still that you want to understand what you're doing first and then why you need the CRM to begin with. That is a very powerful combination. If you want to make a real advance, when you want to think the market goes down, you want to follow the market goes down, great. You follow it when it goes up. Wouldn't it be great if it goes through any kind of a small down cycle that you are the one still going up? You can do that with processes in the CRM, using it as a marketing tool, not just by advertising more, right, but actually by processing inside your dealership the best way you can. And that's the real expense of a CRM, is when you don't use it. You use it wrong. If anybody on the phone is as old as I am, you might remember a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Hopefully everybody knows who Bugs Bunny is on the call, where there's a whole forest that goes into, during the duration of this short cartoon, the whole forest practically goes into the sawmill, and at the end of it all, Bugs Bunny gets a toothpick. Well, we don't want to get toothpicks out of our forest, right? We want lumber. We want to build cities and conquer continents and get more sales, really, from our forest of opportunities. And if we're not doing that, then we're making that sawmill make us a toothpick, and that's the real expense of a CRM, is just not using it. That's when it's really an expense. If that's where you are, let's get out of that ditch. Call me, email me. I'll be happy to talk to you. But I've been talking to dealers about this for a long time. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys today about it, because it's something that's near and dear to my heart. Hopefully you can pick up my passion about it. So just remembering, the CRM, people will say it's in your way. Let's not talk, it's too complicated. Get a simple one. If you've got your processes together, then go simple. Go mobile. Don't hesitate to ask that question. Find out, and it's not 6 months or the next version. If that's where it is, find out what you need to do to get yourself to make your CRM and your processes match and make that teamwork happen. Get smart. If it doesn't support your sales processes, get one that does, but don't just think that's your answer. I'm going to write another check. Know what your sales processes are, right, before you can do number 3. Don't allow the bypasses. Get a hold of that. Make your system a system that allows for accountability more than boss, I said so. Because gosh, you can go into a CRM and say, boss, I said so, because I clicked, I did all my follow-up. The only accountability you're going to have is whether they sent an email or not. Phones, you don't have a clue. You don't even know what they said, because it wasn't recorded. But even if it was through your CRM, you need to know what happened, when it happened, what follow-up were done. And that CRM still gets, I got very frustrated, and one of the reasons that we changed years ago when I was with the group I was with, one of the reasons that we changed, because we had that thanks for the check, whatever attitude from the provider that we had, so we went and got a better one. We also, my assignment there was to do those two things, get the processes together and get the CRM in the right spot. And that did happen. But it's hard to maintain it because we have so much, shifting sands of management. Well, the thing that should never shift is, I don't care who you hire as a manager, please put it in their pay plan to use the CRM, hold them accountable to those reports. Just for activity alone, you will make, because activity begets opportunity, opportunity begets sales. That's how we do this. And that was long before I was born. I think that became true in the car business. I'm really sitting on my next to last slide, which is my contact information. I don't want to just preach to the choir. I really would like to get a question. Say, Rick, do we have something for the folks that give us a question? We can give it first question that comes out.
Absolutely. We've got.
Put him on the spot. Put him on the spot. I should have asked him about this before. I apologize for that.
We got pens. We actually got some golf caps.
Yeah, see what?
We'll
Okay,
send you out some Drive 360 golf caps.
that'd be good. That's perfect.
That we'll send you out. We've got a new golf cap we just put out, and it says Drive 360, make CRM great again.
You got to love that. Make CRM great again. So first person with a real question, hit me. Somebody wants a ball cap.
Well, here, I'll ask you. I have a question I want to ask you.
You don't count, Brian.
You don't get a Brian.
I know, but I do. I want to ask you. Keith, based on your experience, what is the biggest challenge a CRM presents to a dealership? And then alternatively, what's the biggest challenge that a dealership presents to a CRM?
The biggest challenge a CRM presents to a dealership for me is complexity. It's just designed by some propeller head somewhere, and I used to be one, by the way, so I can say that. And so they went off somewhere and designed it sort of on their sketch pad, and then they got really excited about the code that was underneath it and never paid any attention to how complex it was to use. And that becomes a usability issue. But you've got a menu with 150 items on it. What the heck is a salesperson supposed to do? So simplicity is the answer to that, how fixes that. But the biggest challenge overall, without question in my mind, is complexity. And you asked the other part was, I think, what was the biggest challenge a dealership presents to a CRM?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question, because the dealership itself, processes are talked about, but you go to a dealership and ask somebody, did they ever write the process down? And if they wrote it down, are they following it? And to date, I never had a yes to both questions. Although I know it happens, it happened for me, but it's hard to maintain it that way. And sometimes it's yes, we almost do it, and that's a better answer than no, we don't. So it's those processes sort of hang around in the air, and we talk about the 10 steps to the sale. We don't talk about how to do those 10 steps inside the CRM. How powerful is that for a dealership to fix that problem and say, here's my process. Now CRM, do you meet this challenge? And if they don't meet the challenge of your processes, and they don't add your processes as an answer, where they say, I don't meet your challenge, but I can do this, in fact, it's better, and you agree to that, then you need to move on to the next one on your selection list and go and evaluate them that way. When you're evaluating the CRM, how does it meet your processes? And if you don't know your processes, then you're just going to keep Forrest Gumping it, Lieutenant Dan, right up on the mast when I think the shrimp are over there. Have your moment. Have it on this phone call. Look up to the sky and say, I've had my moment. Let's go make CRM great again, and make the dealerships great with it, and not just make it an expense. Don't let any of this happen. Don't let any of it happen. That is the biggest challenge the dealership gives, is the processes are actually not known. And if they're known, they're not followed before the CRM is even looked at. CRM will not fix that problem.
Sorry.
No worries. So do we have a question from anybody else who wants a ball cap?
Yes. Brian Ortega would like to know, what are your suggestions regarding emailing customers?
I would normally. Is that from chat?
Yep.
Okay. He typed it in. He typed it into the question function on the webinar. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna take a second and take a look at that myself. Oh, here it is over here. Okay, great. Okay. There are a couple of things that could be behind that question. I'm going to guess at what the details are. If I don't get it right, make sure you go with the second follow-up question. Suggestions about frequency, for example, come up a lot. Am I over-emailing? Well, here's a little secret that everybody probably doesn't know. 5%, 3%, that's often what dealerships will see for their marketing emails, and under 10% open. I'm talking about the open rate when you're trying to reach out to somebody. Now, it builds up a little differently as the modern age has come along, because folks are making fewer and finer choices. And they're gotten to the point where there's no email at all, they just show up. That will happen. So what my suggestion is to tell you this. If you're trying to reach an internet customer and you email them a valuable question, here's a valuable question. Are there any colors that you would not take? Are there any features that you don't want? They never think about that. And that's an interactive question that they really need to answer. You just give them a price and a quote for a car, which some of the OEMs want to have happen. I understand that. But if you got a little slide there to be able to talk to them, I would ask them those questions. I've seen them very successful. I actually got that suggestion from Joe Webb years ago, and it worked really well for me, because people go, well, you know, I don't want green, can't handle green. You don't ask them the light or dark question. You ask them, are there any colors you wouldn't take? And are there any features you absolutely don't want? And that will help you do the job better, but they'll actually answer you. So frequency, when you're trying to get to an internet lead, man, people go, well, I beat them up with email, or I hardly email them. One day, 3 day, 5 day sequence, or whatever. Look, lead man, early bird gets the worm. I call them and I email them. And when I call them, I try to reference the email. Hey, I've got an email that I sent you. That please look at it because it's got the details. I've got that RAV4 that you want, and let's talk about it. And you get them looking through their email for your email, things like that. So hopefully you're seeing that there's a combination of things, and I hope I'm answering what you wanted. If you want contents, I try to never give up everything under my skirt without asking for a ring. That's probably a bad way to put it, but that's how I look at it. I want people to say something to me before I give them every piece of information. Does that mean I don't give them a price? No. Internet shopper will just find it from somebody else. But I give you a price and say, you know what, we can actually work on that if you call me. Do some interaction with me. At least they'll email you back and say, I don't want a phone. At least you got them on the email. Hopefully that helped you. If that's not what you wanted, please continue to ask questions. Is there no, while we're waiting for that, can you give me another question?
Yeah. Actually, Brian typed in great thanks. I believe you hit the nail on the head there.
All right. Well, you know what? Yay me! A good guess on my part, but I have done that job before, so I kind of know where you're sitting.
Cool. Well, our next question is from Greg Lasky. He says, do you have an example of a sales process being used in a CRM?
If you're asking me, do I have a tool answer to that question, or are you asking how it matches up for the road to the sale? If you're asking about the road to the sale piece, in a particular example would be me and what I did, because I sat down with my sales managers and I said, okay, what's your road to the sale? We hacked it out, and I said, okay, here's what the CRM can do in there. And we actually found 7 pieces that we could match to that. And so then when we did the meet and greet, we allowed a little rapport, but we also made people check at the desk, and then we used a feature in the CRM that allowed us to say, you know, the guy in the red ball cap is talking to Fred Simpson, you know, find out what that's about. So they knew that they could not touch the desk about a customer that they spoke to, and not everybody came over today to get, you know, directions to the Walmart. They were actually stopping in to talk about a car, and so we did that. So we built the meet and greet around that first impression, did a lot of policing up front, and then when we go through the interview process and build a rapport and we gather the information from them, then we would go through a position where we needed to actually get that information. And you know, asking for a license up front is sort of like, again, I just met you, let's go to the Bahamas. That might work for the rich Playboy guy. The normal person has to do a little more work to get to that trip. So those are the things I do. We actually found 7 parts of the road to the sale that we could do inside the CRM. We clearly identified them and laid them out. I hope that's answering your question.
Yeah, yep. Actually, Greg just typed in yes. Thank you.
Awesome. So go. So I'm 2 for 2. Come on now. Give me one I can't answer, somebody.
Can you give an example of how a CRM pay plan looks for a manager and a salesperson?
Well, I can in general. I promise you this. I'll put my contact information up there. You can contact me however, and I'll email you within. I have to tell you guys, I had a family emergency on Monday, so between now and within 48 hours, I will email you what I used. But in general, it works like this. The managers are the first ones. Just do them first. You don't want them grousing with their salespeople. Do not do them at the same time. And do the managers first. Okay? Because what's going to happen in the human psychology is, if I do the salespeople first, do that scenario, then the manager's like, I don't have to do it. And then when they realize they have to do it too, then the salespeople, and there's a lot of back and forth that's ugly. If you do them at the same time, it becomes a big distraction. You do the managers first, and you tell the managers, we're going to have the salespeople do this, but first we're going to deal with you. And then we do the salespeople second. So the managers, there's an easy accountability built into most CRM just on the very first month. Okay, I would bonus first. I would say we're going to do a bonus program before I start taking money away. So my first 30 days, I'm going to bonus somebody a significant amount of money to get their attention. for the most activity by your people in the CRM. And if you do the most sales of your, I got 3 different sales teams. If you do the most sales improvement over last month, then there's an additional twist to that you get the money. So I don't just get activity, I get sales out of it. And that's the thing, you always got to tie the 2 things together. So ultimately their pay plan would look really good for if they sell everything, in the subsequent months when you decide to go there, whatever the psychology of a particular dealership is, maybe the 3rd month into it. Now it's the idea that you did an improvement, or you did this, you met this goal, and you were looking at a $2,500 bonus, Jerry, but because your guys had the least activity, it's only $1,600. That won't happen to him more than one time. And if you warn him ahead of time, it'll never happen if he's a good manager. But if it ever happens to him, it won't happen more than once, because either he'll find someplace else to go, good riddance, or he'll never do that again. So salespeople, I run contests for logging. I would pay them $1 to log a customer, and logging the customer means we're logging a real customer. If you can't do license scans, then I would do spot checks on them. If I ever found anybody who was not a real customer that was ever tried to log, Bob Smith showed up and Bob Smith wasn't real, and I would spot check by calling, then they could never participate in my contests again. Those are 2 simple ways, activity and then the logging, to get them on board. Ultimately, you want to look at who's actually making their calls and who's actually, in managers, you can also look at who's asking the deals inside of CRM, which is what you want them to do if it's available. And so you can run contests on that. So you don't start it all at once. You build toward it. Within 6 months, you'll have a process that's very, very tight. As long as the general manager supports it and the owner does, and general manager usually the most important, then and within 6 months you'll get that result. I hope that's a good answer, a great result. Excuse me.
Yes, we have another question from Julie. She wants to know, how do you think the RTTS has changed due to the customer desire for speed of transaction and the technology in place to make that speed happen?
It is 2 things. They don't know anything about the road to the sale, and we imagined it 10 steps. The road to the sale itself still exists inside the processes of the dealership, but they didn't know anything about it before, and they were very, very unhappy with it, right? 3 hours waiting for the finance to get done, or the detail took an extra 45 minutes. All those things that just drive them crazy, which are all really time-based. Once they settle on the money, it's all time-based, right? So that's really what's happened nowadays is people are far more impatient. They have far more information, so they don't come in ignorant. And so you have to ask them when you come in. Very, very good question. Thanks for coming in today. And we were trained, have you worked with anybody at the dealership before? Great, go ahead and ask that question if you want. But say, have you been looking at our information online? Have you come in? Have you thought about a car that you want? Don't say selection, by the way. Have you thought about a car you'd like to look at or a model that you're interested in? And then they'll tell you, and they'll feel like that's a smart question because, and then if they want to get resistant, say, well, we don't want to talk about that, we just want to shop. Hey, you got all those, that's the same customer we dealt with for decades. But when they open up at that point, now you're in the road to the sale. You're 3 steps into it, but you kind of have to fill in a little bit on the behind because they've already kind of picked out a car, and your whole idea is that I don't really know if it's the car first that's best for the dealership to sell, just being frank, and whether it's actually the best one that's going to meet what they saw because they saw it online. They may not even know what they want, right? That's what we always think. We switch them all the time. So you have to do that switch a lot softer now. You have to be a lot more rapport when they come in the door, and you have to be more of their friend and more social. If you aren't doing that and doing it quickly, then you are undoing yourself. So you can't say, I'm sorry, I'm at step 2 of the road to the sale. We can't talk about the car right now. And I want to do a walk around in a few minutes. I'm going to show you everything about it. That's not going to suit them. It's not what you can't do, it's what you can do, and that's the big shift. The power is in their hands. So you've got to have an adept salesperson who can help you with that and knows the road to the sale and will follow it, but understands that the person coming in doesn't give 1 quarter or 1 penny of 1 thought of 1 million miles away about what it is. They want to buy a car, which is good news, right? So know what your process is supposed to be, and for the internet person, just to give you a number, it runs between 3 and 6. They think it's going to be so easy in 3 steps, and I don't expect more than 6 things that I need to do coming into the dealership because they're thinking about I'm going to pick out a car, I'm going to drive it, I'm going to settle on the price, I'm going to go to finance and pick it up, 5 or 6 steps. That's where they are, and they don't want it. They don't care about anything else. So get them in make your staff understand that they've got to adapt to that customer and still keep control of them. And then as an adept, A-D-E-P-T salesperson, I like to have them. I didn't get them too often, but I did know that if I had the CRM behind me, I could make even a less than adept person understand this. So it's 3 to 6 that they're expecting. 3 more is really your impatient 25 to 30 people, 25 to 30 years old. And but nobody wants to think that they're going to go through a 10-step process. That's a mythology we need to abandon as far as facing the customer goes. I hope that was helpful.
All right. Actually, yes. Julie says great stuff. Thanks, Keith.
Oh, thank you, Julie.
Greg has another question. He would like to know, how does the Drive 360 platform differ from other platforms?
Okay, so now I'm gonna actually let Rick introduce Rick again. He's going to come and answer this question. That's a great question to get in the call.
Well, it's because we said it is. No, I'm just kidding. You know, Drive 360 CRM, you know, one of the things is it's one of the newer platforms, if not the newest platform in the market. So just putting that in place, it's built with the most modern technology. You know, without sounding cliche, it is built as a mobile-first platform. What mobile-first? Some of my seminars that I've performed, mobile-first means that it's built with an application that when we build something, it is built across all platforms: mobile, web, tablet, smartphone, and so it's built with all these applications across the board. Number 2, it is a true cloud application. So when we are building something, it's not sitting in a server farm, it's not sitting in our office, it's actually sitting in Amazon, the largest data system out there. And so the probability of this system going down is highly unlikely, and most importantly, the bandwidth capability is very big. The bandwidth capability is huge, because as our demand increases, the scalability is increased also. And so the system is quite differently. Second, we're really not trying to really tell you that our system's any better, but our system is much simpler to use. It's built in a user interface that is much simpler. When I designed it thinking and considering the retail person in mind. So that's really where Drive 360 is much different. It's much faster, it's higher in scalability, and it's built on a mobile platform first, but also having a web application, and it has a much higher utilization. But again, the purpose for the webinar is not really about Drive 360. It's more about, you know, what are some of the things that that over the years have failed the CRM space. I was talking to a great friend of mine who was the founder of Autobase, which is where I cut my teeth in the CRM space, and he was a great guy and really did a great job in the infancies of CRM. And I told him, and I said, you know what really stinks is being the founder or the pioneer of the CRM, because you taught us everything we shouldn't do and let the market determine what needs to be done. So as a result, it now becomes the opportunity for us that are in the 3rd and 4th generation of the CRM world to figure out what needs to be done. And then you guys have went out there and given us feedback on what the market wants it to be done. So that's really what Drive 360 is different about, because we're out there, you know, as you guys have went to your 3rd and 4th CRMs, giving us feedback on what you really want in the system. So that is what CRM is different today about our system.
All right. Actually, Greg says thank you for the brief overview.
Cool.
Cool.
So what else can we do for you guys? Got more questions?
Actually, that was that's the last question that we have right now. If anybody else has any questions, please. Oh, go ahead.
I think we got 5 hats so far.
Brian, I will talk a lot about the trend. I would love to talk about this. I'm going to take it away from Keith real quick because the trend in the industry is really going to talk about, and we are heading this way quicker than probably others. The trend, I've seen the question come through, so Brian, I'm going to jump in ahead of you on this one in the essence of time. The trend is going towards where you're going to see a lot more social plug-in, where your social, we've heard of the 6th degree of separation. We might see more of a 3rd degree of separation, and you're also going to see where your behavioral intelligence is going to come into play, and your ability to bring in more business intelligence, where it will start factoring in calculations and intelligence of prediction that will start predicting what your customers will do before you and even your customers know what they're going to do. We are starting to work on some modeling that will start predicting defections and best ways to communicate with your customer prior to you having to figure out what you need to do. So that is a fantastic question, and that is where the industry is trending. I spoke about this in Denver a couple months ago, and that is machine learning. And I will tell you that Facebook is playing with this with you right now on this right now in machine learning and modeling you to figure out what is the best trend. So modeling, behavioral modeling, and predicting things that will now learn to predict what your customers' behaviors are going to be.
Can I borrow that back for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, because the marketing guy comes out of me for a second to summarize in a way for me, but it also comes to me when I was on the floor. The idea that you'll be able to get in ahead of losses to your business. An internet lead nowadays shows up as someone's interest, and then we do data mining today, sort of try to hope we're going to find someone before they fall into the funnel themselves. We're going to do that, but the idea that you'll be able to take the data that you've got in a business intelligence way and actually know more about and be able to prioritize those customers and know what their behaviors are doing beyond just the data that's in your own CRM. You heard big data. People do things like buy houses and stuff like that. You map all that together, and now you've got a very powerful engine for getting ahead of your competition to be able to go out there and get this business before they even think about getting it. Or from predicting their behavior, they're about to have a baby and they're going to buy the new car, or they're going to after they bought the house, they're going to buy the new car because they closed and the underwriter's done. All that stuff are great simple examples of what you've got, the power of just what's in that data to make more sales happen. So even when you get an internet lead in, you'll be able to know some more about the internet lead. When you like to know more about them than just the fact that they were interested as well. So you've got an active customer who's out there pinging, and you'll be able to know more about them and be able to process that in your own methodology, be able to put it simply, to be able to know where someone's sitting in the sales process more detail. What do they do for a living even? What is the buying of that household right now? What's their buying arm look like? All that, and what's their buying time, and when's the last time they bought a car? All that stuff is available out there in big data to be matched up in business intelligence. And that's, I think, a great way to get sales out of just getting a lead. You now have intelligence about that lead.
Greg, you just hit the nail on the head with what your comment was. Is exactly what Keith was mentioning, and Greg's comment was due to the millennials getting ready to purchase.
Oh yeah, buddy. Oh yeah, and that's the smartest. They've been marketed to more than any generation in history.
And hey, everybody's trying to predict what they're doing. Let's let the computers predict it.
Yeah. Let's get the data going, and not the crystal ball.
Yeah.
Let's get off the mast. Let's have that spiritual moment, not try and guess where the shrimp are. Let's go know.
So that's what Drive 360 is working on right now, is working with machine learning and data science to predict behavior. So if you want to know what Drive 360 is working on, we're working on machine learning and predictive analytics and predictive math. So there you have, it's out of the bag. That's what we're doing.
There goes that secret.
Greg, Brian, Julie, and Danny will send you our hats that says "Make CRM Great Again." Did we miss anybody? Not Brian.
Brian Ortega.
Not you, Brian Ankney.
Yeah.
Brian Ortega.
Yeah.
We have to send you a check.
All right. Well, are we on more questions? Are we close to wrapping? We can take maybe another question if we have it.
Actually, it looks like that's all we have right now.
Okay, well, I'm ready to say thank you very much. My contact information is on the screen. I put it the way that we're the first automotive CRM built from mobile up. All your sales ability, every platform. If you're on a tablet, you can do it. If you're on a desktop, you can do it. If you're on your phone, iPhone, Android, you can do it. The point is you need to care about selling the customer and not what phone you have in your hand, and your CRM needs to be the same no matter where you are, and that's what we do. That's my commercial announcement for that little line right there. There's my phone number, 281-229-5887, Keith at drive360crm.com. If you email me questions or if you email me what those pay plans, whoever was asked about that, within a couple of days I'll get back to you. I'll be a little faster, but I just had something happen on Monday that I got to take care of. And I really appreciate your time and the audience today, and thank you, Brian, as well, and Auto Success.
Yes, thank you everybody for attending. This is Brian. Again, I'd like to invite you to join Auto Success Webinars. It's a group on Facebook, and if you're not already a member, go join. It's an open group, so you just search for it in the search bar and it'll bring it up. If you would like to share this presentation with someone else in your dealership, I will be posting this. It takes about 2 hours for the video to process, but once I have the video and recording of this presentation, I will post it to Auto Success Webinars. I know a few of you have emailed me during the presentation asking about that, and yes, I will do that, and you can go there and see it. I appreciate you all taking the time, and I hope you join us again for a future webinar. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Keith.
Bye-bye.
All right.